What's up, everyone? This is Voces Unidas on KROJ 101.5 FM. You are tuned in with Diosy,
Melisa,
and Teodora.
and we're here, y'all. It's Monday. We have Monday shows now, and it's a vibe. We got here. Teodora got here from work. Mel, where were you before here?
I was picking up my boyfriend from the metro station, and then I came in up here. And
Hey, shout out to Nick. What's up, Nick? If you're tuning in.
We talk about him too. It's
Oh,
so
let's
funny.
talk more about Nick then. Nick is the man. I was in the West Valley today.
I know. I actually saw.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you stalk the avatars. And
Yeah, me too.
I find my iPhone.
But yeah, I was in the West Valley, and I was actually at the mall with my kids. It was a vibe.
Oh, which mall?
The one right there next to your house, the Westfield one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just hung out. I did some work for Valley Views, and they just like hung out while I did work. It was cool.
Chill.
Yeah.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, my ride was like 25 minutes home today, but it was a good day.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, let's get this show started. We want to start our show with a quick land acknowledgement. If Teodora, you can please go ahead.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna do a labor and land acknowledgement. This is derived directly from the Fernandino, Tatavi, and Banda Mission Indians website. If anyone's ever interested in doing a proper land acknowledgement, they do provide a resource for folks to be able to do it, and then we coupled it over with the labor acknowledgement. So stick with us as we go through our labor and land acknowledgement. Today, we recognize and honor the original occupants and stewards of the land on which we now gather. Many of us join this gathering from lands that are the traditional home territory of the Fernandino, Tatavi, and Band and Mission Indians. Voces Unidas recognizes and thanks the first people of this ancestral and unceded territory of the Fernandino, Tatavi, and Band and Mission Indians, which is now occupied by the city of LA and residents like ourselves. It is important to honor their elders, past and present, and descendants who are citizens of the Fernandino, Tatavi, and Banda Mission Indians. We recognize that the tribe is still here, and we are committed to uplifting their stories, their culture, and their community. Today, we also honor the survival, adaptations, force assimilation, and resilience and creativity of Native peoples, past and present and future. We encourage participants to consider their responsibilities to people and land both here and elsewhere, and to stand in solidarity with Native, Indigenous, and First Nations people and their sovereignty, cultural heritage, and lives. We also pause to acknowledge and give thanks for the work upon which our country, our slave, and our institutions are built. We remember that our country was built on the labor of enslaved people who were kidnapped and brought to the U.S., and we recognize the continuing contributions of their survivors. We also recognize the work of all immigrants, whether voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, or undocumented, who contributed to the building of the country and continue to be part of our workforce. We recognize all unpaid care work. To the people who contributed to this immeasurable work and their descendants, we acknowledge our and their indelible mark on the space in which we gather today. Our collective responsibility is to critically question these histories, repair the damage, and honor and protect and sustain this land.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teodora, for that. We were at the Great One-Eighters event this Sunday. We went out. Pierre sent me a message, and he was like, hey, we have this community event going on, and I live right down the street. Not right down the street, but I live probably less than 10 minutes away from the Sheldon skate park. And so it was just like a community event. They were giving free food. They had raffles for the community. And they were just kind of introducing some of their programming. And
that sounds cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. You were actually the only one we were missing.
I know.
It was really sadness.
It's Sunday, man.
It's
go
Sunday.
See my parents.
Hey, that's good. Little recharge.
Yeah, you gotta see the parents.
Yeah. Well,
but it looked fun.
It was really fun. They were giving out baked potatoes.
Vibes.
Yeah.
I love a baked potato.
Yeah, it was baked potato, but nacho style. Nachos. So it was like
Junior
they had
nachos.
like sour cream, cheese, asada, just like
Oh.
jalapenos.
That
It
sounds
was really
delicious.
good. But yeah, so we were out there. Shout out to the Great Winators. You guys can get in contact with them at great with GR8, the number 818ERS on Instagram. And you can, find out when their next free event is. I know they have a lot of events going on here in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and in the West Valley as well, all around the valley. There's programs for all ages. That was cool, but we also had a big win for the community, specifically of Pacoima.
Yes.
But anyone that lives next to a airport is gonna really appreciate this one. Who wants to?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce
Yes,
Yeah.
the big win. But many of the community of Pacoima, Van Nuys, Burbank, Hollywood, San Fernando Valley folks who have grown up next to an airport may or may not know, but they do recognize the noise of single-engine airplanes that circle around their neighborhoods. We were able to get a big win in our community, and this regards to communities who live next to airports, not only in the San Fernando Valley but throughout the state of California. We're able to get the ban of leaded fuel in the state of California signed by the governor, with Senator Menjivar, who really is a champion, who has been able to, put herself at the forefront in her legislative season, her second year, being the state senator of our district, being able to champion this big, important cause that, we know that lead was removed
Yeah.
from cars, but never from airplanes.
Yeah.
And it continued to impact community who live next to airports, especially youth. And being a youth that grew up less than a mile away from an airport, it feels like a big blessing for future generations that are growing up in Pacoima and throughout the San Fernando Valley in the state, who get to, have a better chance at
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Their IQs aren't going to be, by 2031, it'll be banned. So hopefully we'll be able to have a better opportunity of assuring that our health is not at stake for a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, and Voces Unidas in Pacoima has followed the bill from, when it was, brought up and everything. So if you guys want to follow along, again, we are on Instagram at Voces Unidas in Pacoima. And you can also tap in with us on at Valley Views SFE Media. But yeah, last little thing we want to talk about, what we have going on is this Friday, the Heartbeat community, Daniel Molina and myself are working with a collective in the West Valley. And what we're doing is we're putting together with them right now some workshops geared towards creative entrepreneurs and kind of just like bridging our networks there, using each other as resources, learning how to bridge our creative passions with the business world and how to navigate that, that messy, gate-kept world. And so we have a workshop this Friday. You guys can tap in at the Heartbeat Community on Instagram as well. And you guys can check out and see all the information. We are going to be having a clothing drive for Helping Hands. And this event is going to be taking place at the Guitar Merchant. Again, you guys can check that out on Instagram. And, we are going to go ahead and introduce our guest. Mel, go ahead. You can introduce our guest.
Okay, well, I think I can have our guest introduce herself. We have Lena Williams here with us. She's an organizer, an activist, a bike enthusiast, and just all around wonderful human being. I've gotten to work with her for many years, but we haven't been working with each other for the last couple of months. So I'm just super excited for her to be so gracious and give us her time. Coming up here, she came up from South LA, so really just never underestimate that car drive up here. So just always appreciate you coming up here. So
Yes.
please, Lena, how are you doing? And if you want to introduce yourself a little bit before we kind of get into the segment, would love to hear a bit.
I think you covered most of the things, wonderful human being, Lena Williams. I am the programs director at People for Mobility Justice. I am also on the executive team at Ride On Bike Shop and Co-op in Leimert Park Plaza. I am also a small business owner. I have a small pet care business that I've been operating for the past 7 years. So, yeah.
Nice.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. The pet care stuff was much bigger than the bike stuff before the pandemic. And then the pandemic changed things and people were home and not as many people needed pet care or, could afford it.
Yeah.
So I had to pivot to doing something else. Mm-hmm. So everybody was outside on bikes. So
Interesting.
Didn't want to miss the opportunity. Yeah.
Wild. I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah. We're uncovering new things every day.
A new, yeah.
That's, I think, the beauty in, what is it? I say this word wrong every time, but entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship.
Yes. It's a big skill to have. And just hearing everything that you've grown into and your passions and knowing you as an organizer for mobility justice is just it's so different. It's so awesome to hear the different areas that you've been investing in through your time, in your career.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think little Lena, growing up envisioned, me being here and doing the things that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I didn't see models of this at all.
Yeah.
Definitely nothing that looked like me, in all of the ways. So modeling possibilities for other folks, really huge for me because there's many ways to be successful.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think also not just modeling that, but just creating new pathways, because I know for myself, these jobs didn't exist when I was growing up. So it's not even that I could have planned for this future that I'm in right now, because these jobs didn't exist. I remember when YouTube came out,
Yeah.
YouTube was huge when it came out, and now we have YouTubers and we have there's actual jobs dedicated to this platform. And so no way that I would have ever thought these jobs would have been, when I was in high school, it was just very much I would get made fun of for being interested on being on social media and posting and stuff. I don't know about you guys, but that was very much.
Here we go dating ourselves again.
Yeah.
Social media. I'm there was no social media when I was in high school. What do you mean?
Oh man,
I'm yeah, the oldest one in the room.
Well, nobody's dating you. Nobody's putting a date on.
I'm okay with the date though. I'm fully confident and comfortable in sharing always. I did a lot to get here, and I think a lot of people see me, and because I present so young, and then they hear me speak and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. So I think having wisdom comes with age, and experience. So
Yeah. And how would you say that, that translates in your work, that wisdom and age?
I think it allows for me to show up to the work in a very full and confident way. I am very certain, there are a lot of us in the mobility justice, sort of space. I can say that there are not many that look like me. I definitely know that there are not many that approach the work like me, and, sort of share the stories in the very real ways that I, like to do that. I think a lot of people like to skate around and talk about just the good things.
Yeah.
So approaching the work from a very solid and knowing place, I think that only comes with age and maturity.
I love that. And okay, so I wanted to talk about just your relationship with Ride On and All Day, and just the organizing work that you're doing with them around the e-bikes. I know that we did a bit of organizing work around e-bikes, and so I was able to go down there and see your guys' bikes, and I've been able to talk to Ade a couple of times. And yeah, just like kind of the start of like how you got to know Ade, how you got to know Ride On. Could you speak a little bit about just like how you got into those beginning
Absolutely.
threads?
So shout out to Ide, my brother Ide. It's his birthday today, so we want
Oh,
to,
happy birthday.
give him a shout out on his birthday. Ide Neff, big ups. Much love for you. Ade and I met at a bike conference called The Untokening, and we met briefly. And then I came to LA. It was like around this
You
time.
met him before you moved to LA?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
like briefly in
wow.
Atlanta
Wow.
at a bike conference.
Cool.
And we didn't. It wasn't like we exchanged like a whole lot of contact information or
Yeah.
anything like that. And then later I came to LA to like kind of scope things out because I was anticipating a move here. I think it was like in October of like 2016. So I walked by the shop. I saw the bike shop. A day was there, and I walked in and I was like, I need a place to like fix my bike or like build my bike up because I was having it shipped here. So he was like, yeah, you can ship it here. I was like, yeah, I think we met at the Untokening, and we started talking about that. So a part of me shipping my bike to the shop was, yes, I needed a place to like put it together, but I also know that it is better to to show people what you can do as opposed to telling people what you can do. So I was like, if I put my bike together here, then he knows that I can work on bikes. So in exchange for that time and him allowing me that space, I started volunteering with him there, and we were putting together bikes on little buckets in the shop. Like, if you see the shop now, like, we've grown so much from those days of, putting buckets, together. So, yeah.
That's so cool. What about like even going back before like Ade, before Ride On? How was like your relationship with like cycling and biking? Like, how did that flourish? Because you're from the East Coast area.
From the South.
From the South.
Yes. I'm
And
born and raised in
distinction.
South Carolina.
South
Yes.
Carolina.
I lived in D.C. for 13 years, but I'm born and raised in South Carolina, so I'm from the South.
The South.
Always and forever. No matter where I am, no matter how long I've been away from there, I am
Yeah.
from the South.
And that's roots and
I
resilience.
I feel that roots and resilience.
A Southerner through and through.
So what was like do you remember like the turning point where you're like, okay, this might be like more than just a transportation or a transportation mechanism, and it kind of turned into something that was more than that, like the passion that you have around cycling and education, safety, organizing, like around those things. Like, did it happen in the South? Did it happen in LA? Like,
It
in
happened in the
DC?
South. It happened in the South for sure, but I spent some time in DC. I worked for the Human Rights Campaign. I started biking to work because the parking lot next to the job was sold, and it became way more expensive. It was like $300 a month or something like that. So I was like, oh, I can find a cheaper parking spot and then drive or like bike to work. So I found a cheaper parking spot. I started biking to work, and I realized how much it changed my affect, how much I changed once I got to work, getting off the bike.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't getting to work like, don't talk to me. I need time to warm up. I need time to get myself together before I'm able to engage. I was able to get to work. I felt better. I was smiling. I had a great time. I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something to this. Because in DC, there's traffic here too, but like, there's a lot of like road rage and like that crazy energy, So being able to recognize that I needed to be outside of that space, to allow myself the freedom of like, just to explore the creativities of like living in a different space, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you're in a car, you're boxed in, you're thinking a certain way, all the time. You remove the car, there's like, okay, now I'm boundless. I can do anything. I can see all things. So it just allowed me to like really tap into a different way of living. So that's, I think, what started to spark some of the passion. I was doing organizing work when I was in DC anyway. But just, different organizing, I think,
What sparked, the activism and, organizing behind transportation?
I think so. What was happening too in DC, where my office was, a lot of people were getting hit. Pedestrians walking, crossing the street, scooters,
Mm.
bikes, So that was something that kind of like sat with me. And then I left DC. I moved to the South. I spent a lot of time, biking through New Orleans and like really tapping into the love for, being outdoors in that way. And I think that's really what, was the switch, for me when I switched to commuting as a way of life, as a real thing. Like not just from my parking spot to the office, but I am going to bike every day, whether it's raining, it's super hot, but I'm going to bike. I'm going to commit to that, because that's what makes me feel really good. That's what improves my quality of life.
It's so interesting because I think growing up in the, not I think, but growing up in the San Fernando Valley, I used bikes to commute to school out of necessity. And I used bikes as a kid, for fun. So the relationship that people have with their bike is so unique to each individual and how and where they grow up. So hearing about your roots in South Carolina to moving on to New Orleans and experiencing different regions of infrastructure.
Absolutely.
It sounds like deeply influenced you in the sense of your commitment as well, because you took it with you everywhere, it seems.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. A lot of different, sort of perspectives, biking in different places. I biked from Georgia to South Carolina with a group of folks. There were like 13 of us.
Wow.
So
I
that
wanted
was
to talk about
a
this.
pretty incredible experience as well, being out on the open road like that,
How long
Yeah.
was that?
It was about 6 days total. We did 5 days of biking.
5 days. It sounds
Yeah.
so refreshing, honestly, right now. I've been driving a lot. Oh, I just drive. So, just the
Like
thought
most
of,
of us.
yeah, no, just the thought of being on a bike, feeling the breeze in your, I haven't been on a bike in a while. So just thinking about 5 days on a bike sounds amazing.
Yeah, out of all of the places that you've biked, what has been your favorite and why?
Ooh,
I love that question.
that's tough. Really, really tough. I'd say the LAs are tied, like Louisiana and, LA. LA, I really love biking here because I can bike to the ocean. I can do that very easily. There's so much bike community and infrastructure, and, there's joy in that. In Louisiana, it was my favorite thing to do in terms of just exploring. There's so many tourists in the city. You get to see everything. You're slow enough to like chase, sort of like nature. Butterflies are running by you.
Yeah.
People are, out, doing their thing. You can kind of speak to people. Everything's moving, at a pace that feels relatable and like, where you can engage with folks. And you're not speeding by. It's like we have time for each
Yeah.
other. It's more intentional.
Yes, I love that.
While you're talking about biking, I just get flashbacks of myself on my bike. And I'm like, when I was in Berkeley, I would use electric bikes.
But Theo, you were riding with us. What happened?
No, yeah.
You know,
What do you mean?
What happened? I'm like, we were out on bike here in the valley. What happened? You decided you
I
didn't.
think we were
I-
all traumatized.
Oh, okay.
Let's move
So,
on from that question.
Trauma existing, where you
No,
find
yeah,
healing
and-
is a very real thing.
Yeah.
I started
Yeah.
actually running after, I had like a big pause, and I was like, I need to be mobile. I need to find a way to be mobile. So I started running. And now I'm like, now that I have a new job that I don't feel, I actually was thinking about it, using a bike to get to work, but taking my own commute in my car. I live in Arleta, so I had to drive to Van Nuys. I stick on Woodman, and that street is just so heavy with traffic
Yeah.
that I wanted to transition my lifestyle. I was actually talking to Mel
I've
about
done it. I've done that I've done that bike ride before on Woodman. It's not too bad.
It's
I
just
mean, it's
I have a
bad,
fear
but-
of
You
cars
know,
and being
That's
hit.
valid. That's
No,
valid.
the thing is that I've witnessed two separate bike accidents where a
Yeah.
car hit a bike on that street.
Yeah.
And so it's just like,
It's definitely valid. I mean,
I think I would, as Teodora's sister,
no, yeah.
older sister, I'm like, please drive.
Yeah, no, and my job requires me to have a car available to me, but you know, it's definitely an opportunity for me to still use my bike in the weekends. I was gonna say, when you're taking a moment to think about your favorite place to your favorite ride, I was gonna be like Hanson Dam.
It is such a beautiful ride up there. Though.
Yeah,
It is.
it really is.
I have really good memories, like with our bikes on that pathway, and just the sunset, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful. I get memories on my phone about it, and I'm like, oh,
It,
this is
yeah,
beautiful.
that's a really fun ride. Yeah. I was gonna ask about. Well, I was gonna say, like, something that I've actually been doing more is walking. I mean, it's not biking, but it's not in a car, and that's been really cool. I've been enjoying, like, just walking around the neighborhood. You can't
We're
go
not
as-
down in pedestrians. Like, we're, all forms of pedestrian activity,
Yeah.
We're embracing and we're encouraging folks to get out in motion,
Yeah.
whether that's on bike, whether that's walking around, scooter, all of those things.
Yeah.
Well, in good news and in good light of bike paths and talking about infrastructure, we could bring that up when we come back from break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we go on break, Lena, what's a song that's on your mind right now?
Let's go
Put her
with
on the
some
spot.
Frankie Beverly.
All right.
Yeah.
Frankie
We're
Beverly.
gonna shout out the old head,
All
We
right.
talked about New Orleans.
Okay, well, before we go off air,
Before I let
before
you
we
go?
go on,
Exactly.
before I let go, okay, well, before we go and listen to Before I Let Go, I want to remind you guys that you are tuned in with Voces Unidas on KROJ 101.5 FM. What's up, everyone? It's good to be here on this lovely Monday evening. You are tuned in to Voces Unidas on KROJ 101.5 FM. And these are your hosts. I am Diosy.
Melisa.
And Teodora.
And so we're here with the lovely Lena Williams. You guys, I'm kind of tired. I feel like I have like a little bit of a list going on right now. So
No worries.
forgive
You're good, bro.
me.
You're good.
But, we've been talking about Lena's journey and like kind of, her life, coming into biking and what the impact that biking has done in her life and how she's kind of turned it into her career now. And so we're talking about, like activism right before we came off of on our break, and we were gonna, I think we're going to go into talking about, like the intersectionality between, cycling and environmental justice. And so,
Yeah, no, but right before we got off air, on the topic of infrastructure of our conversation, we wanted to highlight the new and biggest news of San Fernando Road, who actually just got a bit more of miles of protected bike paths. And when we talk about mobility, earlier we were talking about how like also you have to feel safe on the road is something that's so important to encourage people. But if you are interested, there is a newly completed portion of the San Fernando Road bike path that was done. It's an additional 4.75 miles, and it's creating nearly 10 miles of the completed bike path on the San Fernando Road, which we've actually been able to bike with Lena's support and her guidance with some of the bike events that we've hosted in the San Fernando Valley, including Move Your Way, which was only done possible when Mel and I helped lead bike rides that day. It was because Lena had trained us.
Which there was no, cars on the road.
Well, the safety aspect and all that, regardless, is so
it was super fun. It was fun. I loved the bike rides.
Yeah,
That was my favorite part.
Yeah, but the San Fernando Road, again, it's a big accomplishment for our community here, especially because we don't have a lot of bike paths. But that's just a cute little highlight, and also tied into the work that Lena has done in our community in San Fernando Valley. And like hopefully, we get to see more folks on the bike path.
Yeah, and I feel like that topic and just like introduction ties into exactly like kind of what we're going to talk about now, is just the intersections of cycling and EJ, environmental justice, where it's like a lot of communities, especially low income Black and brown communities, don't have access to bike lanes. I think a lot of bike lanes still, like in the San Fernando Valley, are not even like connected to each other. There's like a lot of disconnect with bike lanes. And so maybe just like if you wanted to talk about why it's so important, Lena, for there to be connection within communities like facing transportation inequities, because we're not just facing inequities around like bike lanes, but also bus lanes, bus routes, lack of transit, and also just like the impact of cars on community as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a very multifaceted question, right? Because one, when we think about safety, like we have to be real about that, right? Bike lanes don't equate safety. So we have to start there. I think the idea that infrastructure, allows more people to be out on the street, sure. Yes. But does that mean that it's safe? I don't know. Because we're still dealing with state violence. We're still dealing with all types of other violence as people moving through public space. So I don't know necessarily if the infrastructure actually equates to safety. I think that it creates pathways for folks to have alternatives to the lack of transportation options in, their neighborhoods, in our neighborhoods. I would also say that we're talking about strategically undervalued, sort of neighborhoods, right? So these are places that have been redlined. These are places that, the system or the structures that are in place have been created to keep the status quo as it is. And that has never benefited us. So I think, looking for alternatives in all the ways, sort of benefit Black and brown people. The streets were always intended to be multimodal. So I think, going back to that place, LA makes you think that you need a car, but you don't absolutely need a car, to make it, I think you can incorporate biking into your life as a regular commuting option, viable. I think it's better than relying just on Metro, especially if you have an employer who's very strict about, whether you're late or not, how many times you're tardy. Those things impact your livelihood. So giving you more autonomy over those choices, I think, in commuting options is what I am mostly invested in.
And with the upcoming projects that are coming to the San Fernando Valley, not just projects, but situations like the Olympics, we're going to have a bit more of a need of different mobile options. What do you think is the segue or the opportunity for your day-to-day, or even just your average person to be able to maybe think about using alternative transportation systems during that era in Los Angeles?
I think definitely we're going to need many modes of, sort of transportation options with the influx of people coming into the city for the World Cup, for the Olympics, for these larger, sort of events. My focus right now, though, in the conversation, I was just talking to someone earlier today in a meeting, if we've not already started talking about how these events impact our communities, then we're already too late. Because the funding's already happening. People are already planning around those things. So we need to have positions at the table where we're talking about, one, the displacement of people when these events happen, how we can bring more jobs into the community, for the folks who have been invested in these communities. And lastly, though, and I think is the most important, if we focused on the Olympics and the World Cups as a way to take care of the residents of Los Angeles, we're taking care of the residents here, the tourists will be covered.
Yeah.
So let's focus on making something viable, something great for us, something sustainable for us, that will improve the quality of our lives, as opposed to just the quality of lives for people who are going to be visiting here, so they get the snapshot view of LA, where everything is perfect and all these things are really great. So yes, I think our people are going to need way more, sort of transportation options because, we're already a city that struggles with, crazy, rush hour traffic, gridlock traffic. The buses, run infrequently, oftentimes late. Many parts of the city, you don't have a train option. So putting the, sort of the giving folks more options to create different, sort of pathways for their commute and their lives. I think even families, you could still be, a family riding a bike. You can get a cargo bike. There are e-bikes now. I do encourage people who are going to be on e-bikes to get some sort of training, before being out there. But there are lots of options that I think that we should be thinking about incorporating, and not just like around the metro framing of first, last mile, but like, how do I improve the quality of my life?
Wow.
Yeah, and I think, something that got me thinking about when you had mentioned, like, the Olympics and making sure that it's beneficial to, like, Angelenos in the long run is I was... In my last profession, I got to kind of sit on a working group around just like the goals around LA 28, and one of them was like transportation. Obviously, it's so prevalent; it's going to be needed to like move athletes around, move tourists around, and obviously like be able to still be a functioning city with people and families and commuters. And so something that I think a lot of organizers and activists were always like putting forth was making sure that it was whatever we are doing, it's sustainable even after the Olympics. It's going to benefit the community and all Angelenos after the Olympics. We're not just like putting in a ton of money so then things can be taken out afterwards. We're putting in investment pieces, right, into the city so that even after all the tourists leave, even after all the athletes leave, after all the news stations leave and the world's eye is no longer on LA, we still have this infrastructure that's going to benefit our community. And I think, there are some good like moments. I know that they're expanding the metro system right now as we speak. There's more lines going to come in, which hopefully will continue to benefit the community. And I think we're also trying to get electric buses, so hopefully that will continue to like help with climate change and all that good stuff.
I love that. Well, we are this is like a great kind of segue into like the next little segment that we have is balancing work and life with confidence and resilience. And so I just wanted to remind everyone before we get into that segment that you're tuned into KROJ 101.5 FM. This is Radio Olin. We are coming to you live from the studios here at Pueblo y Salud in the city of San Fernando. Shout out to Pueblo y Salud for hosting us. Shout out to Valley Views for also hosting us and producing us. And we want to also give a quick shout out to our sponsors. And so Prime One Design, we met with Omero this morning, have a lot of really cool things lined up with him. Shout out Omero. Thank you so much for your continuous support. We also wanted to give a huge shout out to Karen and Superior Carco. Thank you guys so much for always supporting us and everything that we do, and for always, encouraging us to keep going. And then we also wanted to give a huge shout out to Maria's Tamales, Mr. Burrito, and La Jefa. Sending you guys love. Hope you guys are doing good. But yeah, guys, talking about this next segment that we're going to go into, grounding ourselves and making sure that we're balancing our work and our life, and we're moving through that with, like confidence. And, I think the resilient part out of all of this is inevitable. I think, as we grow and as we go through struggles, we become more and more resilient to life, right? But Lena, I was wondering if you can share a little bit about your journey and like finding your voice in your work, and how do your roots play a role in you shaping your confidence and resilience, and you know how you present that in, you know, like these workshops that you give to community. I've been a part of those workshops, and it takes a lot of command presence, right?
Definitely. You know, I think one, I grew up in like, I have a very large extended family. Like, I have tons of cousins and, you know, all of those, you know, folks. So I feel like being able to command that type of energy amongst that many people, you know, I think for one, that's your first testing ground, your family,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
your harshest critics sometimes, you know, so I feel like if you can make it and find a way to be confident, you know, through all of that, I think, yes, family, but also too, just, you know, sort of the reinforcement and like the love from them. Like, you know, my dad would tell me, like, you know, never let anyone, you know, sort of convince you. If you have decided that you love something, if you've decided something about this thing, let no one, you know, convince you otherwise. So I think, you know, moving through space and just growing up and maturing and like really understanding that. I also met a woman very early along my professional career named Miss Mary. Shout out Miss Mary. But she taught me a long time ago not to do guilt. So if I've made up my mind and I say something, you can't make me feel bad about that thing, you know, like, because this is my decision to make for me. And your feelings about that thing has nothing to do with how, you know, I'm feeling or going to impact that in some way, right? Can't waver. So having, you know, sort of those types of, you know, sort of lessons as a young professional, I think, you know, allowed me to like really deepen, you know, sort of like my footing, not like just put my foot down, but like, you know, really drag it in the mud. So it's like my imprint is there. But also recognizing that if you show up to the work as your full, like, authentic self, there's nothing more powerful than that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like no one can be me. No one can give you the same experience that I can give you. There are many of us that do this work again, you know, and that's really wonderful because we all have, like, you know, our job, our responsibility. I can't reach everybody.
Yeah.
You know, but the people that I can reach, the people that I can impact, like, I hope that, you know, my confidence, my, you know, sort of like stick-to-itness, my solidness around this work and how I stand up for it, being 10 toes down, as the kids say, you know, is something that really resonates with folks. And they're like, yeah, you know, I can really do that too. Because there is something so beautiful about, you know, really just knowing self. And, like, you know, there's no deeper journey.
Oh yeah, I love that. I would have to agree, you know, like with just like everything you said, and just like we were over here kind of snapping our fingers, you know. Did you want to say something, Mel? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I mean, no, I was just like gonna ask because I mean, I know you as being like just such a force, but I mean, at the end of it, I feel like we always like we all have like those moments of like of self-doubt or like of just, you know, just like feeling a little bit lower than maybe we know who we are as. And so maybe if you feel comfortable, like when you kind of do have those moments, like what brings you back and like what grounds you back into like that trust that you have within like yourself. If you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So my grandmother, Rebecca Williams Coleman, was my North Star. And she was a force that I've never seen before. Just an immaculate, like, there was nothing she couldn't do, no tests that, you know, she would, you know, sort of like walk away from. And I think seeing her in that space and like fight for like home ownership when she was like, you know, young and like, you know, taking care of, you know, the family, all of her kids, and, you know, having that, you know, sort of solid understanding or model of what it means to stand up, I think makes the, you know, the harder days, the more challenging days easier, because I saw people modeling what it meant to be, you know, strong, what it meant to be resilient in the face of like some really, really tough times. So I think for me, I exercise a lot. I have a team of people like around me, that keep me, sort of grounded in all the ways, a trainer, a coach, that I look for guidance when I am, sort of seeking that. I have a partner that, gives me a lot of love and, support when I need it. So that's always, super helpful to be filled, up with love when you, are feeling really low. So I think, just reminding or remembering, one, that we're worthy,
Yeah.
and that you are capable of all the things that you have, that you desire.
Yeah.
And in those darkest moments, you've survived every dark moment before then. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to be different now? I'm going to survive this one too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, for me, makes it easier. And I know that's not the prescription for everyone. We have to take pieces that apply to us and figure out how to make the perfect prescription, the perfect formula for you.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the active piece of working out regularly, I ride my bike, I actually go to the gym several times a week, grounding, putting my feet in the sand, you know, all of those things are really beneficial for me when things feel a little bit rocky.
And I mean, I'm a creative, and I do a lot of my work has a lot of intersection with my passions and my hobbies, I guess I would say. And I guess I want to ask, for you, with cycling being a hobby and part of your work, how do you balance, I guess, where you're doing just joy rides and where you're doing work for is it ever too much? Do you ever need a break from it?
Oh, that's, yes, I definitely need breaks. I think it's important for us all to take, breaks, even from, the hobbies that have become passion work. Because this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. There will always be work to be done. Another bill, another issue, all the things. So I think definitely important to always take the breaks. But my bike is my mirror, right? So it is a tool of therapy. It is a source of joy. It is medicine. So even when I'm working, sometimes, if I'm leading a group ride, there's certain times where I can't play certain songs or certain playlists because I will zone out. And I'm no longer working. I've left those people. I'm like, oh snap! And somebody's like, Lena. I was like, oh right. There are other people here. So yes, breaks are super, super important. I think we all should find the ways, even if it's for a staycation, if it's for California offers a lot of quick little places that you can get away to, to check things out or just to unplug.
Yeah, cool. I mean, you definitely need a break. I've had to take a couple breaks from social media and just in general, scrolling, and I found myself over the summer kind of lying to myself and to my boyfriend, being I have to scroll because my work is in social media, and I have to see what's going on, what's trending.
Sure.
But I had to really have to sit with myself and be wow, I'm pretty much reaching for my phone any second I have available, and it's an automatic TikTok, Instagram, and so I have to take some breaks too, and
and I feel I feel that as well in organizing. Generally, I came from organizing back to back for almost 3 years without a complete break, and I was able to take a break, and it's not a complete break because I feel I'm still organizing, but not at the scale that I was before. And it's been such a challenge with my mindset sometimes, just figuring out, is this that I feel that guilt, right? Sometimes because organizing to me is not just something that I do for work, but it was it's a passion of mine. It's rooted in me. I have it in me to continue organizing because I grew up in certain circumstances, and I continue to live in spaces, and it's so visible to me, especially with environmental justice. But lately, your words really resonated with me because although it feels like a break from the scale that I was at, I know that the work is always going to be there. And especially with this bill that just passed, SB 1193, I felt like taking a step back and organizing. We still have others there with us in the background and in the forefront. And that I feel like is a culture of community, of being able to still take a step back and still see the fruits of your labor continue with the right, with the people who you're rooted in and rooted with in certain advocacy spaces.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful, Lena. Your words really resonate.
Yeah.
One of the deepest extensions of love, right, is when you're doing this community work, is being able to recognize your own capacity.
Yeah.
Right? So being able to recognize when you do need to take that break. Because when we're tapped out, we can't pour from an empty cup. So you need to take the break so that you can come back to the work full, and ready, to engage in all the ways that that you're capable of. So, think about it from that, sort of perspective. I love the community enough that I'm going to take care of myself so that I can show up for you in the most full way possible.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Thank you.
How do you use cycling to stay in community? Because I heard you say earlier that you were on a cycling trip with how many people did you say
13.
It was? 13 people. And I know I came into community with you through cycling. For me, it was a different experience. You were the instructor, but how do you come into community and how do you use cycling to stay in community?
I think cycling is the gift that keeps giving. I haven't, I think through planning, rides, I've planned a lot of group rides for a lot of agencies and for, PMJ Ride On. But I think, just going to some of the other, group rides as well, like supporting other, cyclists in community that may be hosting rides also. So finding ways to meet up with people, I think it is a beautiful experience. To meet up with your folks on bike. It's harder to stop when you're in a car, you see a friend, you're like, oh man, that's my friend over there. I wanted to say such and such. We're on a bike, I can stop and talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And we can stop and connect. We can go grab some tacos or, and sit and chill.
And how would you say that the access to like safe and affordable mobility options, such as cycling, how would you say that empowers communities to stay connected to like their roots and their cultural spaces?
I think it is significantly impactful that it provides many ways, again, because, the streets were always intended to be multimodal. And you don't have to rely on just the train or just the bus. If you want to go to Lemert on a Sunday and, participate in the drum circle, you have means of doing that. I think thinking about affordable and, safe, these are all words that are like really relative, like, when we're thinking about it. But there are many programs that I am involved in, like low cost or no cost lending libraries that make, or change the game in terms of flipping the scale and accessibility for many folks.
Cool. Well, sorry. Any of you guys want to jump in? Sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, I think I was just having like a really great like connection with the like work-life balance conversation. And I think just I really resonated with what you said about like you can't pour from an empty glass, because I feel like that's a lot as like young organizers. I think like Theo and I especially, like we do like organizing for like years and years, and then at the end of it you just like have to take a step back even if you don't want to, because there's just been like so much work that you've done and it just is never ending. Like it's like you can't, there's no like pretty bow that you can have at the end. There's no like send off, there's no like, final episode that you can have when it comes to organizing. There's always, like you said, another bill, another initiative, and so I just like really resonated with like what you're saying, and especially for me, like I had to take a step back and just like now doing the job search. I feel like I've talked about this, but like just going through like trying to find a job and getting through that, it's like then that's a whole other like layer of trying to make sure that you still have value in yourself because you're not working, and like our capitalist system just continues to be like, if you're not getting paid to do something, then like you're not valued in our society because
your value is inherent.
Yeah. No, yeah, right?
Yeah, value is not tied to a job or title or, you know, status or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that I've been trying to like reckon with this like end of summer, kind of going into the fall season of like, okay, yeah, we've been going through it, and we're trying to like get through job interviews and things like that, and I'm like, what, it'll stick, the right thing is going to come for me, trying to give all the good aspirations into the world.
What is for you will not miss you.
Yeah.
And you won't have to chase it.
The train will not leave the station if I'm meant to be on the train.
No, you'd be on it when it's leaving, if that's the case.
Yeah.
You know, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and so...
Well, we're going to go on a quick little break.
Okay.
But before we go on our break, I want to let you guys know who we're going to be listening to. This artist, this musician, his name is Creon Potier. And Daniel Molina actually did a little intimate concert at the Heaven Studios this last Friday. And so they were so nice to do a little interview for us as well, and we had them on. And so we're going to go ahead and play Only in My Dreams. Hey, guys. So how was that little break? It's good. We got freshened up a little bit. But y'all are tuned in to Voces Unidas on KROJ 101.5 FM. We are your hosts, Diosy,
Melisa,
And Teodora.
and, you know, we're going to wrap up with Lena in just a little bit. But before we do, Lena, what have you been working on with the American League of Cyclists?
So I have been an LCI for the past 6 years, and I am currently a coach in training with the league so that I will then be able to train people who want to be certified as LCIs.
What is an LCI?
A league certified instructor.
What is that?
So it is
For our
someone
listeners.
who would be able to teach a host of different bike safety classes, would be able to teach a driver-friendly class for drivers around like cycling.
Mm-hmm.
They could consult with different agencies, including like, you know, sort of development stuff. There is like, you know, and I feel like the LCI opens a lot of doors for folks. It allows folks to create jobs for themselves. You know, you can coach folks. You can decide that you want to go work with one of these bigger, you know, sort of development agencies, you know, and have the backing of the league, and that knowledge will, you know, sort of open those doors for you. So.
And what is the impact that you hope that this certification has on like your career and on like your community?
So one, I think, you know, there are not many coaches that look like me. So always bringing that to the forefront. I think it is important for people and young people to see many different possibilities of what it means to be an adult, and to model those things. So, I hope to be able to open the door for a lot of people who have not become LCIs because of, you know, some of the barriers that are in place. Cycling can be a very, you know, sort of elitist, you know, sort of sport when you think about it. It's traditionally white male, or white males who are teaching the classes, leading the conversations. And I am not any of that.
Yeah.
So, wanting to open the door for as many Black and brown people, you know, to use this opportunity for all of, you know, the ways that they can. I'm pretty sure that there are many ways that people can use the LCI that some of us have not even figured out yet. But I think it is important for a Black and brown person or kids, youth, professionals to be able to set your price and say, you know, this is what I'm charging. This is, you know, sort of like my backing. You know, the league opens many doors. I don't think that it is, you know, sort of the avenue, just as I don't think that there is one particular, you know, sort of transcript for making it. You know, everybody can't go to college. Everybody can't, you know, be in all of these certificate programs and, you know, get all these licenses and things like this. You know, there's something to be said about the people who are self-taught. The people who have been doing these things most of their lives and have taught themselves to become experts in those things.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, you know, you have to absolutely have these things, you know, these papers, these documents to make you successful. I think, though, what we need to recognize is how these documents open doors and to use those for, you know, the advantages and the benefits that they present for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about your experience in community I know you have hosted at Ciclavia. How can you share a little bit about your experience as an instructor out there, like what activities you do to help bring community in, specifically through the lens of Lena? Like, what is the magic that obviously you've been talking
Lena's
about
POV.
it. Yeah.
We want it.
So,
Listen
hashtag
here, guys.
stamp trained by Lena. I think
The
there
stamp.
are many ways. So at Ciclavia, because of the type of, you know, operation that it is, maybe an activation where we are doing a bike rodeo. A bike rodeo consists of several different stations where we focus on different skills. Maybe, you know, doing an activation that focuses on the arts and bringing that into the fold of understanding, you know, sort of our experiences as full people and not just focusing on us as commuters or pedestrians. Yeah, so I think, you know, having the ability to reach, I think the benefit to Ciclavia is that you have thousands of people who come out. So being able to engage with that number of people is not like a standard when you're thinking about like the training and the coaching. You know, trainers or like coaches say you should have X amount of trainers to students. So a Ciclavia allows for us to, you know, kind of push that barrier a bit more. More so like thinking about the pandemic when we were doing virtual classes all the time. I had thousands of people in a virtual class. I had hundreds of people, you know, that have, you know, attended, you know, over time. So just thinking about that collectively, how we can reach that number of people. So it takes me for virtual classes, a couple months, years to reach as many people that I could reach at, you know, maybe 2 Ciclavias. So just thinking about the, you know, sort of the reach of something like that in those types of closed street operations.
There you have it, y'all. Trained by Lena. Make sure that you look it up on social media, on Instagram.
It is a hashtag, so yes, you should be able to follow it if you like. Lena's Bike Life is also there as well.
I love that.
It's really important, especially the exposure, like you mentioned. A lot of people, I believe, are typical. With Ciclavia, they have the option to either walk or ride a bike, but the incentive is to ride a bike. And I believe you all had some bikes there at your station, and for folks who may have been walking to get on a bike and experience it as well. So just thank you. I think I just wanted to say a thank you, Lena, for all the hard work you do. I know it's hot also doing that work. You know, our infrastructure is cement, so you're facing heat while also training folks. So I just wanted to give a little thank you in between our little conversation.
Yeah.
I
was also wondering, like, because, I mean, with a Ciclavia or, like, a bike ride, whatever, a lot of times, like, people have to bring their own bike. And so, I mean, we've done a lot of bike rides together where we provide bikes to people and folks. And you guys have done it, too, like, as PMJ. And so, how is that impacting, like, you when you're able and, like, your organization is able to provide bikes to folks that maybe, like, didn't have access to bikes before? And even if it's just for, like, you know, those couple of hours that people are with you at Ciclavia at a bike ride, what does that mean to you? Because I know, you know, what it means to me, but what is your perspective on that?
I mean, I think for me, it means the world to me to be able to get Black and brown people on bike and to be able to show them a different means of, you know, seeking joy. As I said before, the bike is medicine. It's a tool, you know, that really facilitates joy in my life. It also, you know, sort of heals me in all of the ways. I've even said before, you know, on panels how biking has saved me, you know, from many things. I think we all, you know, have to find the different coping mechanisms when life really starts to life. And biking has afforded me, you know, many ways to, like, really just dig deeper and save myself. So being able to put someone on a bike, that vessel, giving them the opportunity to experience life from this pace, from this, sort of tool, this device, I think is life-changing, life-altering. And I'm happy to be, a guide, when it comes to, those types of experiences.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful.
And then something else, like, continuing this conversation around, like, training, and you're going to be the trainer of the trainers sooner rather than later. And I've been able to watch you do a lot of trainings in the years that we got to work together. And I don't know. Sometimes I would always be like, oh, well, Lena says this. And, like, this is, and I can't remember exactly what it is now, but I remember I was telling a community member, and you were, like, right behind me, and you're like, Lena says what? And I was like, it's true, though. It's true. And so, maybe if you remember, but what is, like, what is, like, your passion, and, like, why is it so important to make sure, like, people are trained, especially, like, on e-bikes, but not just e-bikes, but even regular bikes? Like, where does that, like, passion lie, and why is it so important to you that, like, this knowledge is shared? I know you talked a little about like, the gatekeeping within the cycling community with, white bodies, but kind of digging deeper into that as well around the training and safety behind it.
Well, I think a bit of it comes from understanding that the people in our communities are over-policed. So being out on a bike and not doing the right thing could mean that you end up, being killed by the state, unfortunately. RP, Dijon Kizzy. So having the knowledge or having that education, having that information provided to you, being given free helmets and lights and things that you're required to have, by the county, and hope that, this means that maybe you get to make it home. Maybe you get to have another experience on bike, So I think that is a, sort of a bigger piece of, like, the importance of the safety, but also too recognizing that we live in a city, a state that's really hard, for you to be without income. So if you're not safe and you don't know how to handle your bike and you're being reckless, or, you are not in tune with some of the comfort, being out there, some avoidance maneuvers, things like that, you could potentially hurt yourself. You being out of work for a couple weeks here may mean, the difference between you living here and then not, being able to live here in terms of houselessness. We have a houseless crisis happening now. So I think for me, it's important that people understand the significance of that. Like, it's never lost on me, that people could, that the bike could change your life in really beautiful ways, but it also could change your life in some really drastic and bad and dark ways. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we were also talking a little bit about this when we were having, like, our prep session, is the documentary that you were in, Biking While Black, and the impact that Black bodies have within, like, this police state that we have. Obviously, like, especially LA, we were continuously, like, over policed, and millions and millions of dollars from the city budget is going into LAPD, and we've, it's been kind of flowing throughout this entire conversation of the impacts of Black and brown bodies within this police state. And so just, like, if you wanted to talk a bit about, like, just your experience with, like, the filmmaking, it's a really great YouTube video. It's like around 10 minutes long.
There are two of them. The first one is 9 minutes. The second one is about 30 minutes. It's a longer version.
Yeah, and so if you're interested, I can make sure that Diosy puts it on the Instagram. So definitely, like, check it out. But you can also just look up the documentary online, Biking While Black. But just to plug it really fast. But yeah, I just wanted to, like, get your perspective on just, like, your experience within that environment and, like, the documentary vibes and, like, all that type of stuff.
Definitely. Shout out Yolanda Davis Overstreet, one of my mentors in this work. The film Biking While Black is her baby, her project, and she brought me along for the ride. She's always said that she appreciated, the way that I, approach the work and that I, share stories. So I ended up being interviewed because I got stopped by police on my way to a doctor's appointment during the pandemic on bike. And I didn't think they were talking to me, and they addressed me on the loudspeaker. So given that Yolanda is one of my mentors, I'd called her, to talk about it. And then she asked me to, sort of share my story on film or on camera. So I've been able to do a lot of panels, have a lot of discussions with many people through the Biking While Black, project. I also helped Yolanda create a guide similar to the Black Book, a Biking While Black guide that we produced, I think it was last year, for folks. They're digital copies, hard copies. But I've gotten to really experience this advocacy, sort of lens from a different perspective through the Biking While Black work. It has allowed me to, really reach people that I didn't think that I could potentially reach before, because many people have seen the film. It's been, viewed many times. It's allowed me to build relationships with the council, office, CD10 particularly, Heather Hutt's office, through some panels that she moderated, with us. I got to do some historic stuff with Yolanda, and we presented to the Transportation Committee. All women, presenting to an all-women board, or committee. So, many major things that was, happening through the Biking While Black work. I mean, I think it's a story that needs to be told. I think we often we encourage people, to experience things in different ways of life, and to get out and to take up public space. But we also have to always recognize and to hold in the same breath that we live in a place where state violence is, a very significant, part of the issue and the problem, right? We don't address safety from that perspective. We talk about infrastructure. We talk about the cars. We talk about, the shading or, the lack of visibility and lighting. But we don't talk about the fact that if I'm riding my bike, that the police may decide that, I am whatever, I'm doing whatever that they, think that I should not be doing, and that I could potentially be killed for that.
Yeah, and it goes back to the beginning of our show, and we were talking about the San Fernando Road and the bike path, and like being really excited about the infrastructure, but your statement that infrastructure doesn't equal safety.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't know about your documentary, so I'm really excited to go check it out tomorrow. I'm definitely gonna watch it, and I definitely think that we should definitely publicize it.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and share that on our social medias. But as we're coming up to our end of show here, Lena, any last words, anything that you want to plug in, any projects that you're working on, or just where can our listeners tap in with you, and how can they continue to follow your journey?
They can follow me on the socials. So on Instagram, I just created a bike Instagram for bike work. I think it was maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
Don't remember exactly, but yes.
I remember.
There was like,
Yeah, because someone encouraged me to start, creating a portfolio around my bike activities. So you can follow me there for all bike related content. My personal IG is Soul Lover, because I am a lover. You can follow me on PMJ's website and socials. I plan rides for PMJ. I manage all of the things bike related there. Ride on as well via the social medias. I think the thing that I really like to impress upon people or share with folks in this work, right? If you are out and you're an advocate, you are an organizer, if you are focusing on the most vulnerable of the population in your work, you're leading with the focus there, everyone else will be covered.
Wow. There you have it. Words of wisdom.
and that's period.
Yeah, Mr. Perez. Valley Views, Hector, your words of wisdom are touching us over here at Voces Unidas. If y'all don't know, Valley Views segment has a words of wisdom little segment with Hector. He likes to do that with every single one of his guests. So you dropped some words of wisdom right there. But anyway, y'all, yeah, like I said, we're coming up to the end of our show here. I just want to let you guys know we have our last show of September for Voces Unidas is going to be Las Comadres on September 30th. We're going to have Electra on. So if y'all want to tap in with Electra, we'll be on 7 and 9 on Monday, September 30th. Dates for Voces Unidas in October will be October 14th, October 20th, and October 28th. Las Comadres will be on October 7th and October 21st. And the way that you guys can remember that is the even numbers, the odd numbers are Las Comadres, and the even numbers are Voces Unidas. And so even Mondays are Mel, Teodora, Diosy, and the even numbers are going to... The odd numbers are going to be, you guys, I'm dyslexic. The odd numbers are going to be Maria and myself, Comadre Maria and Comadre Diosy.
And an even easier way to remember is to follow Voces Unidas on Instagram.
There you go.
And then you can find Voces Unidas on Instagram at Voces Unidas in Pacoima. You can also check in with us on Valley View at Valley Views SFE Media. And I also want to remind you guys again that the Heartbeat community will be having an event this Friday in collaboration and support of Helping Hands. We're going to be having a clothing drive. If you guys have any clothes that you guys need to drop off and need to get rid of, please make your way down to the Guitar Merchant. What is going to be the time frame for that?
It's going to be 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Friday at the Guitar Merchant in West Hills. The Heartbeat community on Instagram. You can find more details on the flyer.
Yeah, and shout out to Daniel Molina, our director and producer for Voces Unidas. Behind the scenes, always making sure that we have a smooth show.
I also wanted to just do one more, just a very general reminder for our civic duties. Register to vote, everybody. We're really getting closer to the election. We're going to continue talking about the election in the next segment for Voces Unidas. We're going to be talking about the props as well, so definitely tune in there. But you can register to vote. Make sure your ballot is active. Sometimes they deactivate you randomly. That happened to me. So I had to reactivate my ballot to get my mail-in. So make sure you're just making sure that you're active, and they're going to send it out to you in October.
And your ballots drop October 5th. So you should be expecting your ballot in the mail very soon. So that would be a big highlight if you are registered to vote or not. So make sure you keep your eye out. And if you're not, you can always vote in person at a voting center. And you can find them at LA County's website. As of right now, they're not updated because they're still finding select locations. But just as a heads up.
Thanks, Dale.
Awesome, guys. Well, there you have it. The Voces Unidas crew is working with Valley Views on putting together informational voter guide is what it's. You guys want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I could do a quick little touch, and Mel can add. We have been working on a voter guide that is nonpartisan. This voter guide is mostly just to inform folks about what is on your ballot. It's not meant to really be of an influence on where and how to vote. It's more for you to take your initiative and read and understand what is going to be the investment for a certain proposition, what's on a candidate's website, so you don't have to go out and look for it yourself, because we know that when you do get your ballot, it can be very overwhelming to have so many options and so many bubbles to fill. It feels like sometimes you're back in elementary or, back in high school when you're filling out your test. But it is very serious, a very serious consequential election, as we like to call it. But definitely check us out. I think Mel can share a little bit more about the voter guide. She has been working really hard on our format as well. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I mean, just really what Theo said. We're just collecting information. We really wanted to provide the best info for you all and making it easy and convenient when we go into November. Voting shouldn't be hard. And it should be really accessible, and it shouldn't be hard to figure out what judges believe in and what different candidates believe in and what are, the community college board of trustee is like thinking about, right? Like these are such, you'd think random things, but it's super important to know kind of what who we're putting into positions of power. So I'm really excited to continue working on it. Got to work on one a couple years ago, so it's been really cool, and really excited to talk more about the propositions, because there's definitely some very serious propositions that are coming out, and definitely should recommend folks looking into it now, but hopefully we'll be able to provide some good information for you all in the coming weeks.
And another plug-in. I know we're getting close to closing
No,
out.
you guys
Our
are good. We have like
segment.
5 minutes.
Oh, perfect. There is going to be a mixer occurring this Thursday, on September 26th from 6:30 to 8:30. There's going to be a 2024 GOTV mixer, and it's going to be in Reseda for anyone who wants to come out. It's in collaboration with Somos Familia Valle, San Fernando Valley Young Democrats, and the Latino Coalition LA. So we are going to be out there just so that you get some information on what's going to be on your ballot. Propositions will be talked about, and it's basically a ballot party in the Valley. So please come out. It's going to be at Cava Bar LA. You can find the flyer online at SFE Young Dems or Latino Coalition.la or Somos Familia. But that's a really great opportunity for you all to learn if you want to be in person as well.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Again, Lena, it was a pleasure having you. We're going to have you like at least once every season moving forward. Please. Yes. And it'll be our yearly check-in, I've been finding it a little easier to have like hangouts in the studio, like Electra was like, so funny. Electra was like, hey girl, like, you want to hang out? Like, let's hang out. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't have any time to hang out. And I was like, hey, you want to come on a show? And so, yeah, Electra will be on again, if you guys didn't hear, September 30th on Las Comadres. Again, this was Voces Unidas in Pacoima. This was Voces Unidas produced by Valley Views SFB Media and Voces Unidas in Pacoima. We are on KROJ 101.5 FM, Radio Olin. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.